Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Is Your Headend a Dead End? From IneoQuest Technologies. Our goal today is to give you a better understanding of the ways in which you can detect and mitigate the quality of service and quality of experience issues that can have a direct impact on your business and its profitability. Our presenter today is Sellay, Director of Global Solutions here at IneoQuest. But before we start the presentation, a few housekeeping items. When you entered the webinar, you were given two choices for the audio portion of the presentation: conference bridge and computer audio. If the method you chose is not functioning properly, you will have the option of leaving the audio portion and rejoining using the alternative. We'll begin the presentation with a short survey. The survey will be up for about a minute, and you will be able to see the tabulated results in your interface. In the bottom right corner of the interface is the Q&A box. You can use this section to ask questions. We will consolidate the questions during the webinar, and I will pose them to the presenter at the end of the demo. If for any reason we are not able to get to your question during the webinar, someone from IneoQuest will get back to you with answers. And now, I'm happy to present Sellay.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the IneoQuest WebEx with the subject of Is Your Headend a Dead End? Today we wanted to quickly give you a high-level snapshot of where IneoQuest is in the market. We currently have about a little over 700 customers worldwide. We are deployed both in the linear monitoring space as well as the adaptive bitrate and OTT solutions. We have about over 50 production environment OTT deployments today. IneoQuest has been a global leader in innovation. We've been selected by companies like MRKG. We've made the Inc. 500 and the Inc. 5000 for a number of years in a row. We've also been selected by the Deloitte Technology Fast 500. We have continued to create new standards, things like RFC 4445, the Media Delivery Index. We've created a new methodology based on MDI for the adaptive bitrate space called VeriStream. And we were somebody who worked very closely with the SCTE on their 168 standards to create a concept around the aired seconds, or the 5 nines measurement for video. We are a company that has really laser focus. We are not distracted by other market opportunities. We're not distracted by business opportunities. We're focused exclusively on video and video quality monitoring. We're really able to adapt to the market needs because we have such a close relationship with our service provider and manufacturing customers that we can track very closely, and we have very good visibility into their long-term roadmaps. And that allows us to really make some intelligent bets on the innovation and future of our company. And of course, no company would be complete without a significant number of people and the expertise that comes along with that. We've created a knowledge base within our company that's really second to none. And that's being proved by the number of partnerships that we're seeing in the video ecosystem, and the recently announced partnership with Inritsu and the announced partnership with Verimatrix are just a few of the industry-leading manufacturers who are working with IneoQuest. So really what we want to think about on today's webinar is assuring quality from the head end. It's important to think about the fact that the head end is providing video quality throughout the rest of the network. So if you've got problems in the head end, you're definitely going to have problems moving that video throughout the network, and ultimately the subscriber experience is going to be dramatically impacted. If you think about the market dynamics, you really need to consider this. The data is really showing us that by 2019, there's going to be about 1.9 billion video viewers worldwide. So a pretty significant number of eyeballs that will be consuming content. There's going to be somewhere in the realm of 370 million 4K set-top boxes, set-tops available. And we're really starting to think that, this equates to about 3 devices for every person on the planet. So between the number of devices, the number of viewers, and the ever-increasing complexity of the network, we really have to sort of figure out what our service providers want to do. Do they want to be a low-cost leader? Do they want to have unique content that only they create? Or do they want to be in an environment where they lead because the quality of their delivery is so high that their subscribers can't go anywhere else? What we want to do is be able to leverage all of this new technology. So we're going to take this complexity that's developing in these new environments. We're going to really understand it and realize that it's going to enable our service providers and our video delivery and content creators to reach markets that we've never reached before, to create a personalized experience for viewers where we're communicating directly with a single subscriber in a way that we've never been able to before. So let's take a look at the market here, and let's get a little perspective into what we're actually seeing out there. Of course, there's a number of provider choices today. We've got cable and telco providers that are doing the traditional RF and IPTV. We've got satellite providers, and of course, now we're starting to see the over-the-top play, the Netflixes of the world, the Hulus, the YouTubes, and a variety of others. We're starting to see a lot of viewing options. People are using their laptops while they're watching TV. They're watching their tablets. They're looking at video on their phone while they're at different events. And they're really having an expectation that the quality of the video as it's moving across to these different devices will remain high, and that the experience will be seamless across all of these devices. The other thing that we're really starting to see, of course, is that there's a huge amount of content that's becoming available, not only from the perspective of unique pieces of content, but also for the fact that because we're starting to see a lot of adaptive bitrate, all of this content is being replicated multiple times into these various bitrate profiles that allow our subscribers to change quality as they're moving around networks or as their connectivity adjusts. So what does all this stuff mean? Unfortunately, what it can mean is it can increase churn as subscribers have a new choice of where they can get their content. And it can also reduce profits as the complexity of these networks rises, as the probability of impact to the video increases. The subscribers are less likely to pay. There have been some really interesting studies out there that show that subscribers will pay for quality, but if the quality isn't maintained, pretty quickly the profits decrease. So what do? We need to start thinking about this in a different way. We need to start thinking about this from the customer experience. It's no longer just about is the video making it to a TV? What's my network? How's my network working? Do I have enough bandwidth on my network? We really need to think about what the experience is of that user. And that can be everything from how well they can navigate through the guide, the different features that they have, the integration of features with billing. But ultimately, what we're talking about here is how do we keep our customers coming back? How do we make sure they're not going somewhere else? And we're going to do that by really creating an environment where our customers are very, very happy. So it's really, of course, a lot easier to keep our customers than to find new ones. We're seeing an industry perspective where most of our service provider customers are well aware of their subscribers, and they're not really attracting very many new subscribers. So it becomes ever increasingly important to maintain those existing customers without churn. So what does subscriber churn cost? What do we know about this? Bain & Company has done a couple of surveys, and there were a couple of assumptions that people were making that proved to be incorrect. The first one was that well, it's only 1 or 2 episodes that cause churn. And the second one was that intervention at any point before a customer churns can actually come in and save the day, and those customers will maintain a happy experience. What the Bain and Company study turned out was that churn actually results from a number of events over a period of time. So it's not just 1 or 2, but it's a consistent problem. It's periodic and transient events that are constantly bothering the subscriber. We also, towards the end of the subscriber's viewership, than it would be to resolve these problems up front, or at the very least, rapidly detect them, isolate them, and troubleshoot and solve these problems as quickly as possible, rather than letting them become a larger festering problem. Some of the other things that are being documented at this point, we start to see some interesting revenue examples. We'll take a MSO example of 5 million subscribers. We talk about $50 US dollars on average per subscriber. We're in the neighborhood of $250 million of revenue per year. So if we think about just a 1% churn per month, which is a pretty small number, we're talking about 568,000 subscribers churning per year, which is a pretty big number. And of course, that's going to equate to a loss of $28.5 million of revenue per year. So if we think about this from a perspective of, if we reduce that churn by just 50%, we can stem our losses by $14 million. So we'll lose $14 million less dollars per year than we would have had we not reduced that churn. What we're starting to already understand is that companies are spending on the order of about $5 billion per year on solutions to keep customers happy. So this is a huge market space, and it's growing in importance. So, let's talk about what leads the customers to be unhappy. What we see a lot of out in the world with our 700 customers worldwide, a number of the top-tier global service providers, is really the importance of head-end monitoring, the importance of looking at all of this content every minute of every day, not only for quality of service and delivery, but also for quality of experience in the head end. You really need to understand how those issues can be fixed as quickly as possible so that we can reduce the subscriber impact. We need to reduce the amount of time it takes for problem resolution. We need to reduce the amount of the cost per program of monitoring. So as we increase the number of our programs throughout our platform, the cost of monitoring each one of those programs needs to be reduced. And so we really need to focus on a few different spaces. We need to think about quality of experience and how to assure that. We need to think about our new adaptive bitrate spaces. We need to think about compliance. And so for the rest of our presentation here, that's what we're going to really focus on, is how do we achieve those, and how do we create a foundation for correlated end-to-end view of all of our services as they're being delivered across our entire infrastructure, from signal acquisition all the way to our subscriber devices. Enter the IneoQuest Expedus DVA. As we know, it's a digital video analysis probe. Currently, this probe is designed to do full decode of all of the transport streams that are being brought into it, as long as they're unencrypted. We have a visual verification setup that allows us to capture 1 thumbnail per second, as well as stream live content out from the probe to operations teams. We have the largest scale of any platform on the market and the largest capacity of any platform on the market for this space. We have 24/7 real-time monitoring as well as historical data. We already support 4K and HEVC. Today, it's built into the product. We have key adaptive bitrate features like encoder boundary point monitoring and IDR frame alignment between bitrate profiles. And we've added significant workflow around closed captioning compliance and audio loudness compliance. This product has been so successful since we brought it out, and it's won a number of awards, including things like Cable Spotlight's Product of the Year. We've won the BTR 4 Diamond Awards, Internet Telephony Awards, and many other ones. These are really exceptional product that's being adopted by a large number of service providers. A key to the IneoQuest ecosystem is our video management system, the iVMS, which is the piece that integrates and correlates all the data from our probes. So the DVA is one of these probes. It's already built into the correlation engine in the iVMS, and that really enables our end-to-end visibility and simplifies the operational view of the world. How do we think about what an operator needs to be able to see to get their job done? How do they alarm and look at actionable events that they can do something about versus all of the periodic and transient events that we still need to capture, but we may not need to escalate through traditional operational means? The iVMS allows us to do that. It also allows us to connect via northbound interface to any existing OSS or BSS systems, and now into these new customer experience management platforms that we're starting to see come out. So at this point, I think we want to do a bit of a demo and really show how the platform functions in real time. Everybody always wants to see what the system can do in real life. So I'm going to go ahead and share my system here. Bear with me 1 second, it should pop up. So in this case, I've connected to a DVA probe that's located at our headquarters in Mansfield, Massachusetts. And we've started out on our dashboard screen. So this dashboard really gives us the ability to look at everything from the events that are currently happening on our network, alarm information, or what we think about as errored seconds. And we talked about this a little briefly, but it's this idea that we can present alarms to operations that they can take action on, but we also are able to capture all of these other events that are impacting the network, but are so periodic or so transient that they're not something that a traditional Tier 1 operations team is going to be able to service. And what we've learned from years of experience with operations teams, if you light their management consoles up like a Christmas tree, they're really not able to weed through that to find what they actually need to know. So this particular dashboard gives us a lot of information about, again, the top 10 alarm channels, the top 10 alarms that we're seeing, the errored seconds, and what type of events are constituting those errored seconds. It also really gives us the ability to start diving in on some of these, to look at everything from directly into our alarm log, or to be able to think about what a particular channel might be doing in real time. So we can really quickly just dive directly into a specific channel right from our dashboard. We can really start to see instantly all of the different measurements that the probe is taking. We can see very clearly where we're seeing these alarms, and not only what the metric is and the value that's causing that alarm, but what the alarm threshold is actually set to. And of course, the number of error seconds that this alarm has persisted. We see a lot of other really great information here. Of course, we can see what type of stream codec we're looking at, what the frame resolution is, We can start to get into compression rates and chroma formats. We've got GOP structure information. And all of this is because we are decoding every single frame. So while we may only be showing an individual frame, the decoding is all there. If we look at all of the measurements and metrics that we're able to alarm on, we can see that it's pretty significant. And one thing we quickly notice is that we have the ability to set a threshold for all of these alarms. So we can actually manipulate and control the level of expected quality, which we know will be different from one provider to another. The other thing that we can do is through our alarm templates, we can quickly distinguish between what we want to assign as availability or an errored second and what we want to assign as alarm. And we can have two different thresholds for what our errored seconds are versus what our alarms are. So we see everything here from the quality of service, the quality of delivery, things like continuity counter loss, bitrate issues, PID bit rates, and outage. We start to get into our quality of experience. We see we've got frame errors. This is getting into things like macro block detection. We can even manage which frames we're interested in looking at. We can start to look for MPEG buffer errors, compression errors. We can look for still frame. We can look at GOP structure analysis. We've got a video MOS score that works extremely well to give an overall understanding of the quality of that video. We can also, as I mentioned earlier, start to think about how this video is going to work in an adaptive bitrate environment. What's going to happen when we see the encoder boundary point timing inserted? Is that timing being respected? Is the timing correct? And when we see IDR frames, do we see alignment between those IDR frames across the multiple bitrate profiles? As well as black screen and again, more closed captioning and conformance. So we've got that for video. We've got it for audio. We can get into all of the audio loudness, the BS 1770-1 and 1770-3. We can measure channel silence across primary and secondary channels. Again, 5.1 surround sound support. We also have support for Nielsen watermark detection. So we're able to detect the different types of watermarks and alarm if those watermarks are in outage or not present. And of course, once we're talking about loudness, we're actually talking about the difference between the dial norm and the actual amplitude of the signal. And so we give you the ability to create thresholds based on that difference, but also the duration that event is occurring. So we can really control these alarms in a lot of different ways. We've got information about control PIDs. We've got information that can be set for overall different platforms. And then we can also get into things like all of the TR-101-290 events. So we are tracking priority 1, 2, and 3 simultaneously in real time across every program. So it's an environment where we can manage these alarms really clearly. So if we go back to our real-time sort of deep dive view of this particular program, we not only saw what we're alarming on, we can actually start to see what our history is and look back at any particular hour in that history and understand what type of alarm there was. We can dive into that history and understand the number of alarmed seconds over a 24-hour period. So we've laid this out over a day and look at all of these different measurements. So all of these metrics are being stored in the probe for a couple of days, but they're being sent up to our video management system for 30 days and even longer. We've got platforms that can grow this even more significantly. We also have a system that allows us to stream content back to the workstation. We can either do a pass-through or we can do a transcoded version of that content and be able to have a real-time picture and audio representation of that particular piece of content. Unfortunately, this doesn't work over WebEx because it is streaming video. So This is just to show that we can select a variety of different bit rates. Some of the other things that we wanted to demonstrate here is, of course, our ability to show HEVC. So we see that this is a program that's encoded in H.265. We have that functionality available today. We also wanted to get into a little bit of some of the visual trending that's available to us. Again, the idea here is that we're capturing one thumbnail per second on every single program simultaneously, and that really gives us the ability to associate what the content was at a given period of time. And in this case, we can look at what the loudness was compared to our dial norm. We can dive into looking at a trended video MOS score over time. And we can even get into things like looking at our specific DOP and really kind of diving into, you know, what do we see as errors, where do we see particular problems, macro block detection, slice errors, header problems, what which frames were having those issues. So it's really quite an advanced system that allows us to move forward and backward in time. We can skip by frame, we can search by black screen or still frame, we can actually change a particular day. So some of the other platforms that we want to be able to show you is kind of other operational views. So we've got a great view with our mosaic, which allows us to see a thumbnail of all of the programs that are playing. And we've got the idea of these tabs where we can actually create customizable tabs of particular programs that we're interested in for a given user and filter these views. So again, it's being able to have a visual representation of all the thumbnails of all of these different screens. What we're starting to see our operations users use even more is our compact view. And this allows us to see every single program on a single screen. So now we can see an accurate representation. We can hover over any one of these and actually get a visibility into exactly what the alarms are. So this is kind of moving away from these concepts of having a huge video wall with 300 programs and I've got to figure out how to watch all of those programs at the same time, or maybe I've got some tools that can throw some boxes around them to show which one might be impaired. This is giving you that same visibility. You've got all of the programs that you can see instantly in real time. And when you see one that's got an issue, you can instantly click on it. You can dive directly into it via the channel real time. You can do right-click and dive into our things like the video trending that we just showed you, and even going directly into the alarm log and having it pre-filtered for that specific channel. So it really gives you a lot of flexibility in the way that you can look at what kind of impairments you're seeing. We want to take and show you a little bit about our functionality with things like encoder boundary point. So if I really just quickly filter on our encoder boundary point and IDR frame alignment, we'll filter on this and we'll only see the events that are available to us. So in this case, I want to see this event. I want to go directly to the event and understand exactly what may or may not have occurred. The beauty of this screen is it's going to filter everything out for us. It's going to take us directly to the time that this event occurred. It's going to show us all of the bitrate profiles that are associated with this asset. So we can see we have a 1 megabit feed, we have a 1.5 megabit feed, and we have an 800K feed. We see all of our frames here, and what we start to notice is that these frames are not similar. And we start to have alignment problems between the presentation timestamp of each one of our IDR frames. And then we've associated an NTP timestamp along with those. So now we're able to track exactly when the IDR frames are occurring. And if the presentation timestamp doesn't match between these frames, or between the bitrate profiles, we're able to trigger an alarm. If we look at some of the other conformance testing that we have, we can look at our closed captioning conformance monitoring, where we're, again, able to look across all of our programs simultaneously in real time and start to alarm on things like missing closed captioning, start to alarm on things like word count warnings that reflect against the FCC minimum requirements, reflect on presentation errors, command errors, irregular lines, and detected words. And just to give you an idea of kind of what we're talking about here, this truly is fully decoded closed captioning. So when we click on it, we can actually jump right in and look specifically at the closed captioning for a particular asset. We can see all of the lines that are being encoded. We even can show some of the faults. So in this case, we can see window sizing events. We can see issues with non-empty windows. And with our closed captioning, we can get into things like irregular pattern detection. So being able to look for particular characters that are misused or characters that are all the same. And again, by doing our decode here, we're able to scroll through and actually have that event highlighted for us. Somewhere right here. So our event is highlighted in red, and we can see in this case, absolutely, they were typing some words, and then suddenly we got a $sign. So this word was not correctly formatted. So it's a very quick workflow for being able to detect issues with compliance in closed captioning. Some of the other interesting applications that we've created are applications around audio loudness monitoring. So we've created, again, a workflow around the data that we were already collecting. We needed to be able to display this data really easily. We needed to create a workflow around creating reports that allowed us to store this data for a given period of time. So again, very quickly we see a number of frames that we've captured. We see the timeline of our events, our dial norm versus our average loudness and our 1 second loudness. So it's all of the information that would be required for conformance. What's kind of neat about this is we can scroll here to find our corresponding event. So we'll say, let's take it from 04 to, I don't know, we'll go there. And I'll highlight those frames, and I'll actually zoom right in on that event so we can actually see exactly when that audio peaked up above at a much higher resolution. We can, of course, add that to our PDF, and it's going to capture that information. And then we can actually create that PDF. Let me make sure I've got that application shared with you guys. So once we create our PDF, we actually have information about the particular program, the particular timeline. We've got all of the visual representation of what was playing on that, and we've got all of the audio data along with it. So now that we've seen a problem that goes out of compliance, we can take this report, we can store it, and if the FCC ever comes back, we have this data on file. So that's really kind of just touching on a few of the things that our DVA product is capable of. Of course, all of this data is being presented up through our management system and is being able to be correlated across multiple DVAs as well as with a variety of other probes in our infrastructure. So I think if we flip back over to our slides here, we can really start to understand why an application like this could create an environment where our head end is no longer the dead end of our video quality. where we're able to capture and collect these quality of experience issues before our subscribers ever even call us. Keeping in mind, of course, that the current statistics are showing us that only 4% of our subscribers that experience impairments are actually even calling. 96% of our impaired subscribers never even call to our service providers. So we need to be able to capture this information. We need to be able to have visibility into impairments that are occurring on the network. And of course, we need to be able to eliminate the head end as the cause of these impairments. We need to be able to start looking at the different levels of distribution. Is it the head end? Is it the linear distribution network? Is it the content delivery network? Is it the mobile core? Is it the Wi-Fi core? Is it something that's being introduced by a third-party ISP out at the edge? We need to monitor more content with less resources. This brings us to why we created the level of scale that we have in this product. We need to have a starting point to assure quality of experience for multi-screen. So we really need to be able to not only look at those assets that as we've received them from our broadcasters or our studios, but once they've been transcoded into all of these different bit rates, we need to have the ability to validate all of those bit rates. And of course, we need to leverage this as the foundation for our end-to-end correlation. So that correlation picture from the IneoQuest perspective really looks at like our DVAs, going through our linear delivery, reporting into our operational piece, adding more DVAs as we move through, and our IQ Dialog platforms, going through the CDN, again, also reporting into our operational platforms. And we have a cloud-based offering that allows us to collect CDN-based data as well. Using Northbound to go into an existing OSS, BSS, or again, customer experience management platform. Overlaying long-term reporting and trending with our CPAR application. Being able to create management of all of this platform. And recently, we've added our SDK monitoring, which actually resides in the consumer device for adaptive bitrate, and gives us the ability to collect things like behavioral analytics in addition to quality of experience for the subscriber. And of course, feed all of this information into these big data aggregation centers, how to feed it all into things like decision engines, and be able to use this real-time data that we're delivering through our Northbound interfaces. And it is very real-time, you know, a second or two or three before information is being updated, to allow service providers to start thinking about how they can do dynamic real-time provisioning based on all of these different probing points they've got in their network and now out at the subscriber level. So just to summarize a little bit here, consumers have more choice. They can get content from more places, whether it's from their telco, from their mobile provider, from their cable company, from an OTT provider, and they have the ability to get that content on a variety of devices. Unfortunately, that means they can switch more easily. Download a new app to your tablet and change providers instantly. Success for our providers really does come down to who is providing the best customer experience, who has the best call centers, who's got the best billing platforms, who's got the best feature set in their applications, but ultimately, who's got the best video and how is that video consistently delivered at quality. So as we've talked about, really the belief here is that quality monitoring starts in the head end. It is absolutely the foundation for keeping your subscribers happy, reducing churn, maintaining and even increasing revenue, and doing that by ensuring you're not having the garbage in to garbage out experience, and being able to start with your head end, monitor that initially, and then expand to the concept of end-to-end service delivery, whether that's on linear, whether it's on adaptive, whether it's on a mobile platform, and being able to correlate across all of that infrastructure to provide a consistent end-to-end view. So thank you very much for taking the time out today to listen to our presentation on why quality of experience monitoring and quality service assurance in the head end is imperative and absolutely important for maintaining customer experience and reducing churn and increasing revenue. At this point, we'd like to open it up for the questions and answers. I know that our delightful host has been collecting all of the questions.
Yes, Spencer. Hi. This is Diane. Again, thank you everybody for attending. The first question that I have for you, Spencer, is you mentioned behavioral analytics. Can you talk a little bit about those capabilities and how they would relate to the other capabilities in the system?
Absolutely. So what we see as behavioral analytics is really the idea of being able to collect information about what subscribers are watching, when they're watching it, where they are when they're watching it. Are they watching the whole program, or are they leaving in the middle of it? Are they watching ad insertion? So all of these things really constitute behavioral analytics, what the subscriber is doing, what their behavior is. So when we created an SDK, a piece of software that can actually reside in the subscriber's device, we really started to think about that from a perspective of, okay, we're a company that's focused on for 14 years on video. We have a strong knowledge base in operational video monitoring. We are going to put in our SDK the ability to measure and monitor this idea of quality of service and quality of experience. But then we realized that we also get all of this behavioral information right along with that. Because we're in the subscriber device, we know exactly what they're watching. We know when they are. We're able to collect both GPS data or GeoIP lookup information to know where they are when they're watching this stuff, what their connection types are. Are they on a mobile network or a Wi-Fi network? And the combination of this it really becomes valuable. So some of it gives you the ability as an operations team to say, okay, I'm looking at the rest of my network. I've got all of these probes. I see an impairment through one of my probes. I want to understand how many subscribers are actually watching that piece of content. How many subscribers were actually impaired by that? The other opportunity, of course, is because everything that IneoQuest is doing is real time. It's so real time, in fact, that we're able to provide a level of visibility that people have never had before. They've sort of gotten up to the minute, or at the end of an event, they've collected statistics about that event. But really, the concept of every second being able to understand every user, every piece of video as it's moving across the network is changing the way people think, and it's giving them the ability to start imagining how they could make improvements on their platform, how we could take and create a test environment where as we made changes, we could in real time see how those changes impacted our subscribers. Then we could record that information and know in the future when we saw a subscriber that had poor quality, we would know exactly what to do on the network to change it to impact that subscriber's poor quality. And once we know that, we can start to automate it. We can create an environment where these networks truly become self-healing. They become an environment where the network itself and a larger decision engine that's collecting all of this big data is able to make the customer's experience better. So for us, the foundation of that starts with our SDK in the end client device, our real-time collection agent that's bringing all that data from those subscribers and from our probes together, and using a web services interface as a real-time interface into these big data platforms and these customer experience management engines. So hopefully that answers your question a bit.
Yeah, that was great. I have another question, Spencer, talking specifically about IneoQuest and asking what are your advantages over the competition at a high level?
We traditionally see our advantages first and foremost just as our install base. By having the largest install base of any monitoring platform for video, specifically for video in the world, we really have much more experience in how to do this than anybody else. So our engineers are more familiar with, they've had more time and experience working with operators to not just deploy these probes and sort of look at what the probes are monitoring and do some troubleshooting, but also create a workflow around this. When you start to think about the concept that you can suddenly deploy probes across an entire infrastructure, it goes against how most operators are traditionally set up. Most operators sort of create silos around different parts of their network, and traditionally those silos are fairly closed. So suddenly when you're talking about a solution that's going to give the same level of visibility to the entire linear network, whether it's the RF network, whether it's the core, whether it's the encoding platform, you're also going to give that visibility to the guys who are doing the CDN and the guys who are running the mobile network. And you're able to roll that all up into a single view. You can create economies of scale that people have never really thought about before in operations. You can create smaller, much higher trained groups of operations teams that can really evaluate this video as it's moving across the entire infrastructure, regardless of the delivery platform. So that experience is one part of it. Another differentiator for us is the real-time nature of all of our technology. You know, again, we talked about a little bit that some of our competitors collect things every 60 to 90 seconds. Some of them are collecting things at the end of events. You know, we're doing this in real time every second. Also, we get into, you know, some of the ideas of scale. How do we scale this up to be able to cost effectively look at a lot of video? And I think probably the last thing I'll touch on is the idea that we have such a close relationship with the largest service providers in the world that we are absolutely in alignment with what their future is. We understand and we've helped contribute to define their roadmaps, which is in turn helped define our roadmaps. So we're in a position, a fairly unique position in the video monitoring space, where we can provide specific products that are designed to solve customer and service provider issues. We're not in a black box trying to figure something out on our own. We have the support of the largest service providers and the largest manufacturers worldwide. So hopefully that gives a little bit of insight on how we excel over the competition.
Terrific answer, Spencer. Thank you so much for such an enlightening webinar. Just to let everyone know, we are 1 minute to our time frame. For those of you who submitted questions that we didn't get to today, we will have someone from IneoQuest get back to you on those. For the rest of you, thank you again for attending. It was a pleasure having you, and we hope that you check out IneoQuest's other offerings at www.ineoquest.com. Thanks for attending, and have a great day.